First of all, the NFL is based on quarterbacks, and drafting quarterbacks is hard. But it's not that hard. There are some certain obvious things you should know. For instance, if you play in a really cold weather city or in a division that doesn't have any domes, like, let's say, the AFC Central, Pittsburgh plays outside, it's cold. AFC North, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincy, Baltimore. No domes, AFC North. Cold, windy weather from October 15th on. You probably don't want to draft like the Cleveland Browns have for a year. 6'1" Cody Kessler, 5'11.5" Johnny Manziel, and 6' Colt McCoy, none with a great arm. Don't be idiots, Cleveland. Cleveland, though, decided a couple years ago, man, we're going to change it all up. We're going to go like analytics. So they hired a lawyer, a baseball analytics guy, and Ryan Grigson, who butchered the Colts. They're now running Cleveland. Have things changed? No, they're still awful. And the lawyer and the baseball guy, and I'm not anti-analytics guys, they passed on Carson Wentz. So again, passed on a 6'5" kid from North Dakota who hunts, who the Philadelphia Eagles had to pull him out of a hunting blind, they call it, to tell him he was starting. He hunts next to the freeways in New Jersey. 6'4", 230, tough as a $4 steak. Would be perfect in Cleveland. Not interested. We'll take the uncoachable, warm weather Johnny Manziel. So the analytic guys come in, and I'm not anti-analytic, but I will tell you, quarterback is not an analytic position. It's a man-alytic position. I am for analytics in hockey. I'm for analytics in baseball. I'm for generally analytics in basketball. And I do think analytics in football work to a point. But quarterback is different. Okay, Tom Brady had an awful body and ran like an accountant at his combine. Best quarterback of all time. Here's the list of quarterbacks in the NFL where they went to school. Miami of Ohio, Delaware, Utah, Purdue, Vanderbilt, Northwestern, Carolina, Utah, Central Florida, Boston College, Fresno State, NC State 3 times, Cal twice. Get the point? Mississippi State. These guys were overlooked by the Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Oklahoma. What is the analytic for leadership? What is the analytic for, I'm going to prove you wrong the rest of my life? What is the analytic for, I like to watch film? What is the analytic for, unlike Cam Newton, I'm willing to be coached? Analytic guys, Cleveland, quarterback is about man-alytics. Tom Cruise in Captain Phillips or Saving Private Ryan. Tom Hanks, not Tom Cruise. Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan. Tom Hanks in Apollo 13. Tom Hanks in Captain Phillips. Man-alytics. Are you a man that leads men? Are you calm in crisis? Do you command a locker room? So whenever I see Cleveland hires a lawyer and an analytic guy, and we're going to be smarter than everybody in the room, you do realize Carson Wentz was exactly what a quarterback is. Bear Grylls goes to Carson Wentz for survival tips. That's what a man is. Carson Wentz doesn't use croutons. He puts tree bark on his salads. Animals wear camouflage to hide from him. Bear hugs are what he gives bears. Carson Wentz uses deer antlers as toothpicks. 6'5", 240, tough as nails, hunts next to a freeway. You passed on him for a 5'11" guy giving you the money sign in a division with no domes, and it's cold and windy, and you play on a lake. I don't want to hear about analytics for quarterbacks. Manalytics. Guys who do things that other men aren't capable or feel comfortable doing. You had Carson Wentz. He's going to end up playing in Super Bowls. Good luck with the quarterbacks from warm weather colleges who had great college numbers. Analytics at that position, highly, highly skeptical of. I've never gotten into a fight as a sportscaster, but about 20 years ago, I got close. I was in Tampa, Florida, and I was a sportscaster. And Danny Werfel was a really good player for the University of Florida Gators. He was a really, really good college quarterback, but no mobility, had a really weak arm, really nice kid. Dad was a pastor, like a wonderful, beloved kid in Florida. And I'm at like a TGI Fridays with people at work, and this guy comes up and he's like, Danny Werfel's got to be the number one pick in the draft. He's got blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's not going to be a good NFL quarterback. You don't know anything. And I'm like, dude, NFL scouts don't care about like your college record. Kellen Moore went 50-3 at college. He can't play in the NFL. And nobody cares. College fans do that. In fact, Rich McKay at the time was the general manager of Tampa Bay, and he wouldn't come out publicly and rip Danny Werfel. He's like, he can't play a lick. And Mike Ditka, who didn't know what he was doing as a general manager, drafted him because he's a winner. He couldn't make the throws. But Rich McKay told me off the air, he's like, I'm not going to rip him because, a lot of our season ticket holders are Florida Gator fans, but he can't play in the NFL. He can't make any of the throws. College fans every year, and there's like one or two fan bases a year in college football, they just don't get this. This year, it's the Oklahoma Sooners. They have a quarterback, Baker Mayfield. So Todd McShay comes out. You're going to start seeing in the middle of the college football season, they come out with the draft boards. Like, we'll do it. ESPN will do it. NBC will have a guy that does it. And the draft board came out, and it's Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen. Well, Baker Mayfield could end up with a better record than all of them, and will have more yards than all of them, and will score more points than all of them. And I think in college, he's like 31-6. He's an unbelievable. He's not going to get drafted anywhere near the first round. He's going to be a backup quarterback in the NFL. That's what he's going to be. But this is what college fans don't get. It doesn't matter that Josh Rosen is 14-10 at UCLA. It doesn't matter. They don't care. It's a byproduct of who your coach is, what the quality of surrounding talent is. Most of the NFL quarterbacks that star in this league went to places like Delaware and Purdue. They didn't go to Alabama. If records mattered, Alabama quarterbacks could play in the NFL. The only one that's still there, A.J. McCarron, can't beat out Andy Dalton. Nobody cares about your record. Nobody cares about your stats. They're irrelevant. Matt Stafford, who plays for the Lions and went to Georgia. Matt Stafford was so good in high school at Dallas and had such a good arm that Mel Kiper had told people that he was hearing he could have been drafted out of high school. Now, nobody would have played him for 3 years, but he had an NFL arm in high school. They didn't care that he went to Georgia. They didn't care what his record was. When Matt Stafford went to college football, scouts knew he's going to be a number one pick whenever he chooses to come out of college. They didn't care about his stats and his records. So like Oklahoma's getting caught up in this Baker Mayfield thing. Years and years and years ago, I was at, I think I was in like Orlando or something. Where was I at? I was with my friend. I was in the Bay Area. So I was with a friend in the Bay Area, and we went out. It was a bunch of couples went out, and it just so happened, you ever go out with couples, and like you run into like a friend of a friend, you're like, oh. So I was introduced to a guy, and we sat there, and everybody had a beer, and we're sitting there talking, and he was kind of a slight guy. He probably weighed 160 pounds. He had 5 o'clock shadow, kind of thin, angular guy, sitting there, And after about 10 minutes, I'm like, well, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a model. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And took his, So the next day I went and looked him up. He was all over GQ. He was all over cologne ads. He was everywhere. If you'd have walked in that bar, he was slight. He wasn't a meathead. He didn't have big muscles. He had the cheekbones. He had the look. He had the facial symmetry. That's similar. That's kind of the equivalent of what NFL scouts are looking for. Like March Madness, remember last year? Ben Simmons, number one pick, didn't make the tournament. Markelle Fultz, this year's pick, didn't make the tournament. They don't give a rip about your college record. If you play at Kansas, you're going to win a bunch of games. And if you play at LSU in college basketball, you're not going to win a bunch of games. You're not going to win a bunch of games at LSU. So, like Oklahoma, I see this every year. There's always a fan. It's every year. It's a fan base. And their college quarterback puts up massive numbers in some collegey offense. And everybody's like, oh, my God. All these Baylor quarterbacks under their former coach, they all had amazing numbers. I mean, Colt McCoy is the second winningest quarterback in like college football history. He was like 30-4. He's a backup.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from the newest show on FS1, First Things First, with Chris Carter and Nick Wright.